Welcome in, everybody. It's another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast. Guess what? The Rays are 30-15 and their first American League team to 30 wins. Let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Rays Rewind with El Bushman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. I'm the great El Bushman. Joining me as usual is Drew. You can find us on our YouTube page at Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell, and also to our Instagram page at Rays Rewind Podcast. Big show. We've got another great guest for us tonight. But before we get into that, my beard is getting way out of control, Drew. I don't know what I need to do to that. Should I braid it? Should I braid it? Should I trim it? I don't know what to do. Even though, like, some person, I was a guest on a podcast the other day, and they're like, "You have a playoff beard already?" I'm like,
the two options you just laid out feel very opposite of one another.
Yeah.
So that's quite a decision you would have to make. I would probably recommend not braiding it.
Okay. No Viking.
I can't imagine your
style.
wife. I can't imagine your wife would like that.
Dude, my wife is into some weird stuff, so she might like it. So,
Well, she married you, obviously.
That's true. That's a good point. So, all right, we'll get into it. The Rays just finished up a series win against the Miami Marlins today, getting the win for the Citrus Series. They did become the first American League team to hit 30 wins. They're now 30-15, and I think about 2.5-3 games over the New York Yankees as they lost to the New York Mets today. We're going to get into that all in just a minute, but first, let's get our guest for tonight. Joining us is one of the most trusted voices in covering Tampa Bay sports, from breaking news to in-depth analysis. He's become a must-follow on Twitter, especially Twitter, when he gets into some Twitter discussions with some local politicians who don't agree with what he tends to say from time to time. But he's become one of the most trusted voices across social media content right now for Rays fans across the Bay. You know him from his coverage from WTSP, Channel 10, Tampa Bay, and his passions for all things baseball. Please welcome to the show, Evan Closky. What's up, man?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes. Me and my wonderful Twitter battles there in the politics. That was the first one for me. So
I love it, man. I'm on X daily, and I love it when somebody likes to duke it out, especially with a politician. It just brings a smile to my face, and that was epic upon epicness. And when he turns off his replies, it's even more funny. So
yeah, it shows you quite the character of the human. So
yeah,
is what it is.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. The Rays just finished up a great week at home. They do have some more games coming this week against the Baltimore Orioles. What's really kind of stuck out to you the most this past week in Rays baseball?
I mean, I think we saw a little bit of the regression to the mean that we were waiting for, right? The bullpen has not been as sharp as it was during that stretch where they were holding like a 1.20 ERA when I think they were, winning 15-17 or 14-16, something along those lines. So the bullpen's been a bit shakier, which is to be expected. But otherwise, it's been all systems are a go in terms of the starting pitching. We got to see Schultens look like himself again after that rough Red Sox outing, even though he managed that well. Griffin Jacks has looked great in the transition to the rotation. So, and the hitting, it really is much of the same with the hitting. You're going to have some games where it's just not there with this lineup, that's just going to be part of it. But, maybe some shaky defense from Junior, which, if we want to dig into,
that never happens with Junior.
Yeah.
Of course. No.
But I mean, he made a tremendous play in Sunday's game. That saved the run, and you never know how those games are going to go if that happens. So I expect better days ahead for Junior. I think there's a lot of what if comments of, oh, do we have to move Junior here, move Junior there? He's not this bad in the field. It's going to get better as the summer goes on. But I certainly understand right now it looks terrible because it has been terrible. But better days are ahead on that front.
Evan, I got to ask you on that, staying with juniors. defense. Do you think he's just trying to do too much, like trying to hot dog it way too much and try to make those spectacular plays? Because there are some plays where it's like, dude, you don't have to do all this. You can just, take it easy and just do a regular, routine grounder and just throw it the first instead of trying to do all these hot dog moods.
I never once think Junior is doing any hot dog things. I don't think that's particularly fair. I think he's messing up a lot of the easy plays, to be honest. I mean, these are like, I think it was in Toronto. I mean, it's like a ground ball, like right into his mitt that curls off. I mean, these are throws, like these are mechanical things. And then, things are compounding itself. He's aware, right? If there's anybody who understands the errors that he's making in the field, it's Junior Caminero, and the guy works his tail off, and he's very upset by how he's played thus far. And when he makes a mistake, it seems to kind of snowball on him a little bit, which I think is more of the issue with Junior. It's not so much of a hot dog deal. It's just that one error leads to another error, which leads to him doubting himself. And this past week, we saw that Kevin is going to move a little bit more into the 2025 world, where if he has to play aggressive and the situation presents itself where the team has a lead in the eighth inning and Junior isn't up to bat anytime soon, it's just going to take Junior out of the games. And that's kind of the way that it goes.
Yeah, I love the fact that he is taking accountability and also like taking routine grounders after the games and before games. He's really taking that step, especially as a young player like him. Like he's taking accountability and doing that before and after the game. So I like the fact that he's doing that.
He's always done that. Going back to last year, this is the same thing with Chandler Simpson last year, right? And I was having the same discussions with everybody. Like, Chandler is a long way from playing center field. I think he's made huge strides, and I think center field is one day now in the in the vision for him. Whereas last year, I would say not even a chance. But that Chandler worked so hard in the outfield, and you got to remember that the bat played quicker to the major leagues than the glove. The same thing is true for Junior Caminero. The bat was major league ready before the glove was, but you're not going to hold the player back so that he keeps working on defense. Sometimes you have to do that for guys who aren't like that impressive offensively, but when it comes to special cases like Chandler, who's pretty much up here hitting 300 and has done so close to when he started in the majors, and then Junior, who is a guy that hit 40 plus home runs last year in his first full season, like sometimes you just got to deal with the lumps. And this guy is 22 years old. Like we're not at the point where he's going to be a career DH yet. Yes, there's going to be a point in the future where he moves over to first. Then he's going to move to DH. You already saw this with Yandy Diaz, right? Rays fans have seen the whole progression with Yandy from third to first to DH. That will be Junior's life, but he's got plenty of years in the field left in him before we have to worry about any of that. And it's just, for some reason, he's really good at charging in on balls. And when he's got to use one hand, like that is like his go-to play, but he has to be better at making the routine play, which is, something that a guy like Carson Williams struggles with right now. He can, that there's a whole level to being a major league defender. And that's where sometimes I think Taylor Walls' greatness in the field is taken for granted of how fortunate Rays fans have it at shortstop when Taylor's over there, because he just makes almost all the plays. Yeah, there's going to be a dump play here or there with some glove flip that he's got to randomly do once a year to remind himself not to do it. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So, but he works his butt off. He's made of the right stuff. I'm not so worried about Junior, the human, the player, all that stuff. But mistakes happen, slumps happen in the field like they do in the batter's box. And I think better days are ahead for him.
Yeah. I dropped my internet dropped on me, so you might have covered some of this, Evan. So if I repeat you a little bit, I apologize. But yeah, I know Evan Bush. Sorry, I'm not used to having two Evans on the show.
It's a double trouble this time around.
Throw me for a loop. No, I mean I never gotten the sense that it's a hot dog thing. It's, if anything, it's just him. Like I go back to the play in Toronto where he cut in front of the ball. He's cut in front of Taylor quite a bit this year, and it was the first time it really bit him where he cut in front of Taylor on the Vlad Jr. grounder that ended up tying it because it went off his glove. To me, that's just a young player trying to make up for the mistakes prior, and he's trying to go make a play, which I don't, he's got to know, like Kevin Cash is like, you got to let Taylor make the play. And so he's got to learn to not get over there. But I don't know. To me, it felt like, he's just trying to make too much happen because of what happened prior. And I'm willing to give him as much leash as he needs out there. Like I absolutely.
But I'll say this.
Yeah.
When you're growing up, what are you taught as a third baseman, right? If you can make the play, you cut the ball off in a shortstop. It's just an easier play for you. And the play in Toronto, it got magnified because it was such a big run in the game.
And a terrible inning.
My thing is, it's not so much if you're going to be playing third base, and if you have a line to the baseball, you got to do what you're supposed to do. Like, you're not out there. We can't have a third baseman just like allowing a hole, like, or forcing Taylor Walls to make Derek Jeter-esque plays, backhand going, away from first base. There's a reason why you're taught to cut the ball off. The issue is, and what the Rays might want to decide is, do we want to maybe play Junior a little bit closer to third base, limit his, just have him like stop the balls going down the line. And then that kind of opens things up for Taylor in certain spots because Junior's just not going to be able to get there. And that will be Taylor's ball. But ultimately, you got to allow people to do their job. Everyone has their job out there if they're going to play. It's just same thing with relievers. Is sometimes it's not a managerial issue. It's a reliever issue. When you go out there, you gotta do your job. Yep. And sometimes it is a managerial issue. But I'm not so worried about him cutting off balls. Like, it's a little bit different if he's like out there like diving to cut balls off, where he's got to like get from the ground up then make the play. That is where I would say, okay, probably trying a little bit too hard. But I've been seeing it a lot all this past week. He's got these direct lines to the ball, and he's just got to follow the ball into the glove and maybe, be a little bit of a better decision maker on some of these things, like the pitching staff is, of when they let balls kind of go by them. Like, right. Junior has to know, do I have help behind me with Taylor, or do I not on certain defensive shifts or certain defensive positioning? And then he's going to have to read that play to play, which is a very difficult thing. And again, takes a lot of time to get used to, because those are just instincts that got to change. And those are going to take a really long time. So, I just think part of it is, he came up as a really kind of wonky fielder as is. And then there's other things where he's still kind of growing. And I think that his spring training was screwed up going to the World Baseball Classic, where he didn't play third base for the DR. He was a DH he played third base one game, but he was a DH for like 3 weeks with them. Mm-hmm. That I think he'll never admit to that. And Cash or Albert Pujols, whoever you talk to, they won't blame it on that. But yeah, I do think it's set back. It certainly screwed him up entering the year. The Blue Jays, I think, was just a bad game, but that's why I think things have just been far worse than what we're going to see as he continues to rack up. We're at 40, 45 games through. Like, let's circle back in another 45 games, and I think we're going to talk about, oh man, Junior's getting better. Like, I think that's where we're going to lean towards this conversation through the next 45.
And the roster construction too. I mean, people that are like, oh, you got to get him off third. It's like, well, what are you going to do with them? I mean, if you got Yandy and Aranda at first, so you're not. We're going to put Aranda at second base? No. Aranda looks.
I've seen comments recently. Not moving Aranda to second. Yeah. The Rays are not moving Junior to the outfield. Like, it is what this is. It's a little bit of just, again, you got to trust the marathon. You got to trust the marathon of baseball. Okay, it's you've only like there's still another 115 some odd games left of the season, right? We're still getting a small faction of what this team really is. You got to remember, at the end of June last year, so we're in the middle of May, end of June, This was a team that was like 12 games over 500, and they had like a 79% chance of making the playoffs, right? Like things can change a lot. And the AL is not great right now, but it's clumped and it's crowded. And eventually there are going to be some movers and shakers and teams that emerge. And, if the Blue Jays get healthier, and it's just, there are things that are going to ultimately evolve as the year's going on. So, no, I don't see any of those grandiose moves happening. You just need to keep playing it out.
I stopped in one of my local card shops and then a guy's like, we should trade for Yordan Alvarez. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with him? Well, you can be DH and then you can move Yandy over to the third and then Junior over to first. And then, okay, what are you going to do with Aranda? Oh, I don't know. He can platoon sometimes. I'm like, no. Let's not do that. Let's not talk about
disrespectful to Aranda.
Like, I mean, Yordan would be a fun piece in the middle of the lineup, sure, but it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
The Rays are a team that values speed and versatility, right? They accept what Yandy is because, he used to be a bit more versatile. Now he's not so much, but he's also one of the best pure hitters in the game, and he comes at such a cost-effective option, they can overlook some things. Jonathan Aranda is a special talent who actually has been a pretty good first baseman since getting moved over there. But yeah, like eventually, like Aranda's day will come because he's slow, and if he's not going to hit for average, it's a slippery slope for a guy like Jonathan. And then at some point, Junior's going to have to move over to first, and he's going to do the whole Vladdy thing. In entering this year coming up, entering the trade deadline and what this team needs, it's very obvious that they're going to need some outfield help. Certainly right now, a left-handed hitting outfielder, considering, Jake Fraley, by the time the deadline emerges, like maybe he's coming back or has come back, but it's a small sample size and you're going to be worried about injuries again. Like they're going to need to cover themselves a bit more because they are really thin there in the outfield.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the trade deadline stuff in a little bit, but I guess we could stay on it. Eric Neander said if they continue to play like this, near the trade deadline, they're going to be somewhat aggressive. Is there, anybody out there right now that, the Rays could target to bring in? He said a big bat, they could use help with relief, maybe a starting pitcher. Is there anybody right now that kind of stands out to you that could make the Rays can make a move for when it gets closer, if they are staying like this headed into the trade deadline?
Yeah, it's really tough because, Stephen Kwan was a name that was floated out there all offseason long, but are the Guardians really going to trade Stephen Kwan if they're leading the division by the trade deadline? Even though and not to mention his value has gone south this year. Dalton Varsho is a guy that if the Blue Jays for some reason implode, that is a guy I would be super aggressive for. He is a Ray to a T, but I'm not fully convinced that the Blue Jays are going to be out of the mix by the time they invested a ton of money in this team all offseason long. They are very injured. They're not that far out of it, certainly the wild card. And considering what they did last year, where they picked things up in the second half of the year, tough to imagine they're going to be sellers. But if for some reason things don't turn around and more injuries happen, Varsho's a guy that I really like. It's really a question more of us revisiting in about a month or so. I do believe that, again, if you want to go out there and have fun and try to concoct some Rays trades, you want to look for outfielders who can play decent enough defense. The preference being a left-handed hitting outfielder with some term. You need at least a year on a guy. I think if they can get like an extra year of term on somebody, that would be a plus because they're going to have to do this in the offseason again. Next year they're going to have holes in that outfield again before their prospects start making their way through and we finally get to see some of these guys. Like Homer Bush can come up next year maybe, but right now I wouldn't say he's that much of an option. And next year he's still an unproven option. Though his
so you're saying
plays.
no Mike Trout at all, right? No Mike Trout.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I don't.
It's a running joke on our show, Evan.
Okay, I'm not here to say never, never say never, but it's probably a never.
Mike Trout on the turf, man. Oh,
yeah, I mean, also I think if the Rays can acquire another arm that makes sense for them. they're gonna be really in some trouble here soon, given that Shane is going to need to have a decreased workload. Matt should be back soon, if not like by the middle of this week. So all reports looked good on him. Joe Boyle is still rehabbing. Had a really bad outing on Sunday, but he's probably not too far away either. They just like there's Rass is going to probably have to be a 5 inning guy at some point only. You lost Pepio, who was meant to be a workhorse. I don't even know if they envision themselves making it the entire year with Nick Martinez, but that looks like it's going to have to be a must, especially if they're in it, considering the way that he's pitching. They just might need to add another arm to like get them into the playoffs and to just cover some innings for them, because once you get to the playoffs, obviously you're going to need to have your full arsenal of beings. But in terms of like a playoff bullpen of what that would look like if they can make it that far, like Griffin Jacks is probably going to move back to that role. You're going to have to probably select, you might move Joe Boyle into the bullpen and have him be that option. You might bring up Brody Hopkins and have him be a bullpen option. You might bring up Ty Johnson, have him be a bullpen option. And all of a sudden, this bullpen that doesn't strike anybody out, they're getting it done right now. But last year, Uceta might come back, and Manuel Rodriguez, like, there's reasons to believe that this bullpen can actually be like nastier than what it is now. I think they're kind of falling in the good graces of batted ball luck up to this point in the season. But last year they were one of the best. Like, they struck out the most hitters, their bullpen, and barely walked anybody. And this year the K numbers just haven't been there, and that's not what you want out of a bullpen, right? So I think there are definitely some upgrades to be had, and if they can win, or if Neander feels like the AL East is in sight to win the division, he will be uber aggressive. We know that. He did it with Joe Ryan, trading him for Nelson Cruz. He also did it trading Kyle Manzardo for Aaron Savali. Like, he will take a big swing if it means getting this team or trying to help this team win the division, because there is a big difference between being a wild card team and a division winner. And it looks like the AL East winner is almost certainly going to have a bye in the first round.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the bullpen. Aaron Brooks is just optioned to Durham, so he'll be there for the playoffs. When September comes calling. No, one guy you mentioned the outfield, or you were talking about outfield help for the trade deadline. And it's hard to know, like you said, teams being out of it now. It's impossible to know what teams are really going to be selling, because rarely will teams sell early. But I kind of like Mickey Moniak on the Rockies, which I understand the
Rockies like Mickey Moniak too.
Yeah, I know, but he's 28. Like, he's going to be coming up. I can't imagine that they would. They might be considering signing him to a deal, I guess, but he's
go look at Mickey Moniak splits.
Well, they're not great against lefties. I know that much.
No.
I don't the road home split.
Road home splits.
I don't want to. That was just fun to think about for a half.
I
was like thinking about it today when I was
I've
looking
looked
at the
into this before.
Yeah,
the home road splits are not pretty.
Yeah,
I think he's really, and here's the thing that you got to also remember with the Rays, historically speaking, who do they trade with?
Yeah,
like, they had that one deal.
Dominic Canzone or Canzone. There you go.
Canzone is great, but the Mariners are going to be a team that I think is going to push their chips in once again at the deadline. I think they're going to be buyers. I don't think the Mariners are going anywhere. They have the pitching staff. Cal Raleigh is hurt. Naylor hasn't been himself. Like, once you get down to the second half of the year, and he's got, and Julio Rodriguez has his classic post All-Star break on the greatest player in the world stretch. I expect the Mariners to be right in that fight. They're going to be a team that's built for playoff success, and they're going to make trades. They have the farm system. They're going to be uber aggressive. So I don't like Canzone 100% is a guy that is a Ray for sure, but he is a really damn good player. The Mariners are probably not going to part with him, and I don't see any world where the Mariners are not going to be buying at the deadline unless things like truly collapse in on them, which I do not see that happening.
Josh Lowe
But
just needs to keep tanking his value so that they release him, and the Rays are like, you know what, Josh, come on back. We'll just take
yeah,
we'll take you for the next 6 weeks.
I think
See what
I don't think that's going to
yeah, I feel
happen.
bad for him. I feel like it was a tough season for him
He's
to get
wasting
traded.
himself over in the Angels, just like every other player is now.
Yeah.
I just look. I mean, Josh lost some speed off of his. He lost some bat speed. I think the oblique issues just completely compounded itself. He doesn't, he can't like let it rip like he once did. And he look. The league found something on him after his great 22 and or after his great 23
24.
season, and he hasn't quite adjusted back. And injuries are a part of it. We love Josh Lowe, but it just every reason that we saw last year, just he just kind of looks like a AAA player right now, and that's
And I
just me
think
being objective and honest.
I think there's a lot of people too that expect Melton to come up and be that lefty bat, but and people got excited about the long home runs in spring training, and with the caveat of it being spring training, I just the K numbers are just so bad that
Yeah.
I worry it would have to take a borderline miracle this season for him to come up and be a meaningful
Well,
player in the
I
lineup outside of what he could offer defensively
my
and on base running.
I think the game plan was to have Melton take over for Cedric Mullins
Right.
halfway through the season. And Melton, the sad part is like the week before he got injured, he was really starting to find himself. And then he got hurt. So now you got to exactly what you said, right? So now you got to A, rehab him. B, he's got to then get a bunch of his at bats in, which means he's going to be starting from zero again. And he's going to have to work through some of the stuff that he was, you got to get like a full month or 2 months into him. The good thing about Melton is he is a plus defender, so you can bring him up, and even if he strikes out a bunch of times, if he hits a home run here and there, like that's going to provide value still. Versus the alternative, which right now they don't necessarily have some great alternatives.
Almost like Jose
But
Siri, essentially. It's essentially
yeah,
what you're hoping to get out of him early
yeah,
on, at
I
least.
mean, like, yeah, and again, like 23 Jose Siri was a legitimate player. It's what happened after that, right? Like, you can deal with the 36% strikeout rate if you're going to play all world defense and you're going to hit 25 taters. Like, I think you can rationalize that. But yeah, Melton still needs development. And because he got hurt, now the development has been stunted. The Rays aren't going to rush him through by any means. So I think some of those midseason plans have gotten altered. Maybe later in the season, if he can turn it around, I think we're going to have to see Victor Mesa Jr. up here relatively soon. Victor Mesa Jr. is somebody who's rehabbing currently from an injury. I expect him to get the Durham soon. And then from there, if he's looking comfortable, I would imagine that Victor Mesa Jr. is going to replace Carson Williams on the major league roster and kind of get that left-handed bat back into the lineup construction. Because right now, Carson is no shade to Carson, but he's literally the only available body left as a hitter on this roster. You're not bringing up Dominic Keegan. He's a catcher. You're not bringing up Arenamo from Double A. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, so I apologize to him. But he's certainly not there yet. So that left Carson Williams because Melton and Mesa are hurt, and you need another bat. And you just took Justin Henry Malloy off the roster, but he's a righty bat, so he's more of a Blade replacement. He's not a Fraley replacement. So it's like, okay, who can we bring up who's a left-handed hitter in the outfield? Brock Jones. Nope, not going to work there. So, Homer Bush, righty, like it, and still needs development. So it's just like they're just stuck right now. That's why I mean with the depth, like people are like, oh, like Carson's up. Why is he? It's like he has to be up. They'll change. DeLuca and Mullins are going to have to play more, and it's not going to be like ideal. Blade might have to play against a righty once in a while.
He's hit a little bit versus righties this year. I mean, he's I don't know what his average is, but I mean, he's got a couple bombs.
He was, I know when he hit the home run in Toronto against Hoffman, I think he was 2 for 14 against right-handed pitching before that homer.
Perfect.
He's not like he was brought onto this roster to fulfill the
Yeah.
splits against lefties, and
Yeah.
for the most part, he's done really well there. But that's the problem is, they didn't really
Cash
have.
left them in against a righty in Cleveland, and that he had that hit, that go-ahead hit with the
Correct. That was
Palacio.
yeah. So I mean, we
Yeah,
just named
yeah,
2 of the 3 hits.
yeah. There you go.
So yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to just deal with it now. But that's what I always kind of have told everybody. Like Johnny DeLuca looked great in the first month of the season. They're like, play Johnny more, and it's like, hey, I get that, but the more you see Johnny against righties, don't come crying to me when you're like, oh man, he doesn't look as good anymore. It's like, yeah, because the Rays and this organization have set their players up for success by the platoon route. And now that they're a little bit injured, the platoons are going to have, like, the perfect platoons for them are just going to have to get a little wonkier, which means now you're going to play Carson against left-handed pitching, which is fine. It's just now you're, instead of like, maybe you'd play Taylor Walls there. It's like, no, we'll just take Walls out for the game, give him a breather, and then we'll throw in Mullins or Chandler, and they're just going to have to eat it and just bunt. Like, that's what it kind of comes down to.
Speaking of Cedric, he had a great series against the Marlins. Do you think he's
Cedric fan club?
Yeah. Do you think
not fan club? I feel like I'm the only one been out here saying, listen,
Do you think he's turned? Do you think he's turned a page after this series, or are we just going to see more of the same against his former team?
I mean, and what I've been kind of saying on Cedric is the guy wasn't going to hit 130 forever, right? And so I was.
If he keeps butting, he's going to raise his average up. So I mean, he's pretty good at it.
There are a couple things. He's looking more comfortable at the plate. He's making better plate decisions. He's taking more walks. I think he was pressing. This is a guy who's supposed to walk more than what he's done up to this point. Like, the walk rate is not where it's supposed to be. And that, to me, is a sign of pressing. So now that we've been seeing some more walks this past week, it shows me that he's more comfortable on the plate. Obviously, he hit the home run, but he got some bunts down. He also snuck some singles through some holes into the outfield. Like, you're going to naturally see some more batted ball luck. That is going to, the whole debate I've had is not that, like, you've dealt with the bad Cedric for so long. You got to hold on to him for a little bit longer to at least get the good Cedric, which is coming. I talk about splits. Go look at Cedric Mullins' splits in June and July. For some reason, he always seems to come into his own during the summer. I don't know why that is, but he is significantly a better player in June and July than he is on any other months. So there's reason to believe that he just is a slow starter and it takes a while for him to get going. But look, he's been playing good enough defense. And this is also my argument, or I shouldn't say my argument, but my point of perspective for people about Mullins. Some of them complain about Mullins all the time. And I say, you know what the funny part is? This team has the best record in the American League, and somehow they've done it with Mullins in the lineup every day. It's like, yes, it's not pretty, and maybe they're doing it sometimes despite him, but the defense is still solid. He's a great veteran presence. I know how much he's meant to Chandler Simpson. And so, better days are ahead, and we're seeing some of those better days. Now, the thing is all of a sudden he going to be a 2-WAR player? No. He's going to have to have a significant run here to just be a net neutral player, like a 0.0 WAR guy. He has dug himself such a bad hole. I don't know if he's going to be a positive WAR guy this year. So that's where I'm okay, Cedric Mullins as a player we evaluate for the entire year, probably not going to be good enough. But I feel like we've gotten through rock bottom. And now, starting from a couple of weeks for the rest of the season, if we just took those numbers, I think they're going to be a bit more forgiving for Cedric than whatever the first 6 weeks were. And the good news is, and what this team has been really good with, is that they've all picked each other up through some really bad stretches. Aranda was really bad for a stretch there. But, Yandy was super hot. And there was a stretch where Caminero was hitting a home run every other day. But now, Yandy and Caminero got cold, and Aranda hit 400 for a stretch. It's just really they really are balancing themselves out versus 2023, where everyone was hot at the same time and everyone got cold at the same time. This year, it's more sustainable to have success because it's if you look at Caminero, if you look at Yandy, if you look at Aranda's numbers right now, that's pretty much where they should be. And maybe you can even argue they have a little bit better in them in some places. But you don't look at their numbers and saying, "Oh boy, like bad days are ahead." Like no, they've gone through some hot heaters, they've gone through some cold stretches, and like ultimately, no one's playing like above themselves right now. Like I feel like that
Yeah,
lineup.
I think they have a lot more to go. There's still like a lot of stuff they haven't scratched on the surface just yet.
They're a middle of the road lineup,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like they are. What I'm saying is they've won this many games being themselves. Like I don't see the the bottom dropping out. Like I've been warning people like the bullpen is going to have some rough days ahead, and all of a sudden we're seeing it now. Biggie just imploded, right? Clevenger,
Clevenger
bad
today. Yep.
game.
Yep.
Baker gave up a run the other day. He had the walk fest in Toronto. Seymour had a bad day recently. Like Sulcer had a bad day recently. So you're getting now some of this regression that was due to happen. I expect some of the starting rotation is going to have some of that too. But from the lineup, from them, I don't see any red flags because the natural red flags are just what we see in general, and there are green flags too. But I don't see like any sort of bottoming out with the lineup. Like I think that what we saw the first 45 games, I can see that in aggregate being replicated for another 45, and it's the pitching where I see there's going to be some natural dip.
Yeah, back one thing about Cedric, that play in Toronto he made where he tracked down that fly ball at the warning track on like a
Yes.
dead sprint. I saw that and I said that's exactly what I would see him do in Baltimore to the Rays, and it always ticked me off because it just
Yeah.
he would just effortlessly make those plays, and that's what the Rays needed going into this year was center field defense.
Correct.
And so you take that, and if he's going to give you that, no matter how bad the offense is getting, he's a veteran. He's going to get the offensive numbers back up, like you were saying. So there's no reason to, not play him right now. So I'm glad to see that he's starting to turn in the corner there. My last question for you is I don't know how long he's going to be up, but the Carson Williams being up now again, kind of unexpectedly, is I feel like an interesting storyline. I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time even against lefties because if like I'm thinking tomorrow they're going against a lefty tomorrow, short of giving Junior a day off or giving Yandy a day off or Aranda a day off, you're going to have to give one of them a day off because you're going to start Ben Williamson. Obviously, he's been great.
Well, Palacios will sit.
Well, right, but I'm saying Ben Williamson's going to start at second. You're not Taylor Walls, who currently has the same WAR position player WAR as one Shohei Ohtani at 1.1. You're not going to sit him against a lefty. He's a better right-handed batter. Caminero, Ronda, Diaz. Like, where's Carson going to play against lefties right now? Unless you sit one of those three main guys, because you've got to sit somebody.
Well, Walls has actually been better against. He's been better as a lefty this year.
Really?
And
historically, I know he's been stronger.
Yeah,
lefties.
I only know this guy. I looked it up today because I had I had this discussion with somebody. But yeah, Wallace has been better against left-handed. Has been better as a lefty, so against righties this season. And I do think that it probably makes sense for the Rays. They will probably start Carson against Rogers. They will probably start Carson against. I guess they play Weathers in New York.
I think Weathers, yeah.
So, but if you track the next 9 games, they play 2 lefties.
Yeah.
They will probably take Walls off of his feet. In general, the Rays typically don't like to play everybody. They like only so many players are everyday players. Like Aranda's going to get a day off eventually. Like Junior Junior is one of those everyday players, but like Chandler gets a day off. Yanni's a DH, so he kind of can do it. But otherwise, everyone's going to get their days off. So I think that Walls will probably have the day off, and they'll probably will play Carson. And if they got to throw Walls in there late game as a defensive adjustment, or just to give them that bat, like they switch over to a righty, then they might just bring Walls in and move like Carson Williams into this more Ryan Valade role, where Valade started, where it was like any time that a righty came in against Valade, see you later, you're out.
Yeah.
They kind of like how he works the catchers with Fiducia and Fortes. Anytime the other arm comes in, boo, see you later. So I think that Carson's actually going to get a couple of starts only against the lefties.
Right.
I do agree with you. I mentioned it a little bit before. He is literally here because they don't have any other options. And now that they have him up here, They're going to try to find spots to play him. I don't think they're going to overplay him, but they just need him here on the roster until a guy like Victor Mesa Jr. is ready from rehab and can play with this team. And then they can move back into their normal set of operations. But yes, like Taylor Walls currently on pace to be like a 4-WAR player.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I always go to bat for Taylor Walls, and in general for any fans out there. It is
Drew's
always
a big Taylor Walls fan.
Yeah, I
He's a big
mean,
Taylor Walls fan.
it is always much harder to evaluate fielding to the naked eye than it is for hitting. We know what bad hitting looks like. You strike out, you fly out, you ground out, you pop out. Like, we know when you do something bad hitting. We don't understand what special fielding is like because some of the special fielders make it look so easy and you just take it for granted sometimes. Like, yeah, like there was the play on Sunday. Taylor Walls turned the double play by himself. The ball was sneaking up the middle. Like, that is not an easy play. That is so damn hard to stay on your 2 feet while fielding the ball in position and get over to the bag and make the throw. Like, but
he had one on Friday that was just like effortlessly.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, it's like smooth like
Correct.
butter.
Yeah.
Another one.
I think the Rays getting if they're competing for a division and they get aggressive at the trade deadline. I said this last week on our show. I think Carson Williams is probable in terms of being used as a trade chip. I know that the shine's off him a little bit from where it was, but he's still top 100. And you think that they're going to get one of the UCLA guy or the big time shortstop high school prospect and have their shortstop of the future, especially if it's a UCLA guy. Like, I can't imagine, like, I think they could be in a position where Carson Williams is a trade chip because they're just so comfortable with Taylor being in there every day. You know, it's
Maybe. I mean, look, first off, they should have the draft. Like,
Right.
look, if Rock Chalowski drops to them, it is going to change a little bit of the short-term future because he's not a guy who's going to be in the minors for like 4 years. Like, he's going to be a 2-year guy, if that. So the math does change. But look, anybody I think is, in this farm system, including Carson, because he hasn't played that much in the majors yet. Anyone can probably be had. They are going to be in a Rule 5 crunch next year. They have a lot of guys that they got to get off their roster. Some naturally have to be on the roster, like, Brody Hopkins is going to be on the roster. Ty Johnson's going to be on the roster. Like, there are a handful of arms, some hitting, like, Xavier Isaac's got to be on the roster. So, but there are worlds where even a guy like Xavier Isaac could be floated, right? Like, everyone flipped out over Kyle Manzardo getting traded. And like, I understand Aaron Savali didn't work out, but let's not act like Kyle Manzardo is some, big hitting slugger for Cleveland, even though he just hit 2 home runs on Sunday. But like, it just, in the end, they'll be aggressive and they got to do what they got to do. If Carson's the name that somebody wants, awesome. Carson is a 2020 guy. He's a great fielder. Like, the floor on Carson is very high. The ceiling is just what we don't know because his whiff is crazy. So he's going to strike out a lot. He's shown some improvements there. He probably is what he is in that category, but he's got tremendous, like finding a defensively minded shortstop who can get you 20 taters. Like, that's pretty hard to find.
Yeah.
And we've seen little bits of him, and a consistency in the field isn't great, but like, I wouldn't, like, if you're trading Carson, I still would expect something juicy in return. But yeah, I think he can be had. And when it comes down to the draft, I'll ask more questions about that when we get closer to it. But, there's a world where the Rays have, I think, the second biggest budget in the draft. And do they want to go under slot with the first pick, which would be, and the White Sox, would they go with Emerson? Would they go under slot? Because if you go under slot with your second overall pick, you might be able to go over slot later in the draft, which allows you to get some better talent and some guys you can, claw them out of their college commitments. And we've seen the Rays do some of that as well. So we'll see how they play that game. I haven't asked anybody with the Rays about their draft stuff yet because we're still so far away from it. But it is a fun conversation we can circle to at a later date.
Evan, we'll get you out of here on these last two. You and I can kind of agree on that. And I said this a couple episodes ago that Gavin Lux will probably never set foot.
You've said that since the beginning of the
I
season.
have said,
and
I've said that
to
since
you,
spring
sir.
training that he'll never set foot in Tropicana Field. And I think you tweeted this out maybe a couple weeks ago where he's becoming a Ha-Seong Kim 2.0. Is there a chance he ever comes back, or should we just kind of say, hey, he might not, or what are we going to do with Gavin Lux if he ever comes back?
I mean, there's a chance, like never say never. Like the injury report we kind of got back on him was like he's going to be shut down for a few weeks, so it's not like this never coming up sort of deal. But yeah,
it is kind of like a la Ha-Seong Kim last year.
Well, and I say that in the fact that the Rays they brought someone in to fulfill a need, and especially in the middle infield, and just are getting zero out of him, right? And spending a good chunk of change compared to what they typically spend. Ha-Seong Kim was way worse in the fact that it was whatever. It was a 1+1 deal. They waived him. The Braves picked it up. It was really a nothing burger in the end. But it's just in the fact that they tried to fill a hole, and it was like, oh, you never, you're really doing nothing for us. So I do think that Lux would add something to second base, but I am a little bit concerned about his fielding. There's a little bit there of even though when he was in AAA, he was walking a ton. I think that he would provide some added value at that position, with a little bit more power in the sense that he can get doubles. Ben Williamson, I really love Williamson. Said that from day one, but he's a singles guy, right? Those guys are limited in what their ceiling can be and what they can do. Gavin Lux has a little bit more of a bat, but there is a darker side to him in the field, which has been always the knock on him. So we'll see. I thought he was on the precipice of returning, and he just continually gets hurt. Well, this is a big year for Lux. He's entering the offseason. He's going to have to take a prove-it deal at this point next year. So it sucks for him. So he's got an incentive. This isn't even him, taking the money and running. He really needs to get on the field to make some money next year. So we'll see. But in the end, I think the team can continue to cover his at-bats. And if they want to upgrade at that second base position, they certainly can. That's why I think
trade for Luis Arraez from the Giants. We'll trade for him.
I don't think that's the craziest idea, by the way. If the Giants eat some of that money, the problem is with Arraez, he is not gonna he doesn't fit the speed profile for the Rays. All of his other profiles he fits. He's certainly this bat the ball, I don't strike out, all that stuff is fun and would add.
We have plenty of stuff to trade away for a second baseman like that.
But you got to remember now, you would have a lineup. If you added him, it would be essentially Chandler and Luis back to back is hilarious. But you have Chandler, Luis, Aranda, Caminero, Diaz. There are four guys in your lineup who are pretty slow.
And Jordan and Mike Trout behind.
Yeah. And we talked about team speed and all this stuff with the Rays. They really don't want to bog themselves down too much when it comes to foot speed. It really limits what they can do. But I really think that he's a name that I've thought of before. And I don't think he would necessarily cost that much. And it does look like the Giants are going to be sellers in some regard, as they, Buster's blowing up that team a little bit, dating back to last year and whatever. So I think that we can cross into that world later. But yeah, it's Richie, I think the under the hood stuff on Richie has actually been really positive.
Yep.
And so not that he's hitting the cover off the ball, but when you look at if you go to his baseball savant page, you're gonna be like, whoa, that's a lot of red. So he's got some good under the hood stuff that has certainly intrigued me, and I'm sure many in the organization.
Okay, and we'll get you out of here. We don't really talk about the stadium a lot on this show. We kind of try and not get into all that, but I know you've been kind of heavily involved in all the stuff that's been going on, especially this past week with the non-binding agreement that just happened. It's a huge step in the right direction. I think this is the biggest step we've ever gotten in the past I don't know, 15, 20 odd years with this team about getting a new stadium. Going forward, I know votes are this week too as well about this as well. What is your percentage? Do you think this is going to be a done deal? We'll see actual shovels in the ground and we'll get a new stadium.
Well, the votes, remember, this is a
It's just an MOU.
non-binding
Non-binding,
MOU. So the votes, I expect the votes to be had this week. There's no harm in saying, like, to just letting it continue, right? You're going
Right.
to have more votes in the future.
Right.
So this week, I say probabilities are extremely high. I would be stunned if the votes didn't happen this week. So, I mean, put it at like 95%, 95%, I'll say that the votes get done this week.
Can we tell the people of Orlando that you got to pray for expansion now because the Rays are probably not going to move to Orlando?
I mean, Ken Hagan himself came out the other day and said it's going to be like he thinks there's a 75 to 80% chance they get home with this, right? So there's still a 1 in 5 chance from somebody who's in all the meetings that says this isn't going to get done. I'm still cautiously optimistic. I've always been cautiously optimistic. I've said this from the start of all the Tampa stuff. It's going to get uglier before a deal gets hit because you're negotiating in public. You're seeing how the meat is made. It's not fun. You're going to hear more, or Orlando already has kind of had their meetings and their bullet points and their headlines. They're going to continue doing that to put pressure on the city of Tampa and on the county. We already heard the state come out earlier this week being like, well, look, if they don't commit to anything, we're not giving them any of their state money. Like they're the outside influences are going to scare you and they're going to make you feel like, uh-oh. And that's the reason why they're doing it. But I always say this, it seems like the county has always, most of the people with the county, I should say, most of them, there feels like a genuine desire to get this done. There's mutual respect here between them and the Rays. The Rays have a lot of incentives to get this done. They don't want to go to Orlando. They will. They will if they have to. They'll take the free money over there. They will. Orlando will give them a ton of money. But the fact is, it is no way can you convince me that Orlando is a better market than Tampa Bay for the Rays. It's just they have been here for nearly 30 years. They already have everything built into the ground. And if you're moving over to Orlando and you have one of the main investors saying, yeah, it's like, imagine all the tourism. Like, oh, that's your selling point, that we're just going to sell to all the other teams.
I'm glad you don't go down the rabbit hole like I do on
It's-
Twitter with all these people
It's just
from
like,
Orlando
it's
saying
like, it's
gonna
such a,
happen.
it's such a dumb thing to say. It's such the antithesis of like why you like own a baseball team. Like, oh, I'm not worried about like Orlando. Like, we have the tourism here. We're gonna have all these people come to our town. Like, and that's kind of what we have to deal with a little bit with the East Coast here anyway. And that's gonna happen in Orlando, but it's gonna be far more exacerbated over there because you gotta build the fan base from the ground up and whatever. So in the end, it's about money anyway. It doesn't matter. Like, that's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter what's viable. Like, they've always been a plan B. They're a legit plan B option. I still think they're a legit plan B option, but they will be a plan B if Tampa gets it done. Like, it is Tampa's job to get this across the finish line. If they don't, then Orlando can enter the picture. But it's not like Orlando's going to come in and swoop what Tampa has. Like, they are just waiting for Tampa to screw it up. They don't have the ability to push the ball forward. So that's where they need to put their own pressure in there. And honestly, if I was Orlando, I would say less. Like, I would not want to put any pressure on Tampa. Like, just let them drag it out and piss off the owners more so that they have more conversations with them, right? So
try and tell that to John Morgan from Morgan & Morgan. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's fun. This is, I find it funny that John Morgan, who has a vested interest in the team going to Orlando, is commenting on why Orlando is better than Tampa. Oh, no shit. Like, you make a lot of money if they go to Orlando. Why would you say that? Like, I mean, come on. Like, I don't like, hey, I respect the hustle. I understand why you're saying it, but let's not act like you're some objective source of some knowledge here. Dude, you of course you think that. Like, you're gonna make a boatload of money if the team moves. So, like, no offense, but like literally that comment is like air to me. It means nothing. It's like if anybody with the Rays or was Zalupski, is like, oh man, it would, mean a lot if like the Rays can win a World Series. Like, yeah, it would. You get like a lot of money if they can win the World Series. You get more people showing up to the stands. Like, it's the obvious stuff. So, yeah, in the end with the stadium stuff, I'm certainly not anyone to make any grandiose takes or whatever it might be. I just tell you what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing, and I've stayed the course for a while now. I am cautiously optimistic that the deal gets done, but there's still plenty of work to be done. It's moving at a high velocity. There's a lot to figure out in a short amount of time, and yeah, like the county, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get done in a short amount of time. So until a shovel hits the ground, at that point I'll be 100%. But until a shovel hits the ground, I'll never be 100%.
I'm right there with you. I've been a fan since '98, and we've gone through sister city plans and all this kind of stuff with Ybor. Like until I see a shovel in the ground.
I will say there is a difference between the Stu Sternberg era and what's happening right now. I got to always remind fans about that too. Like this. And I said this at the very start, like when Zalupski took over day 1, October, whatever it might be. I was like, they're coming in and they're throwing a fastball. Either this is going to work or it's not going to work. They're not going to do the Stu Sternberg thing where they're like, we're going to go talk to Tampa. Yeah. Oh, we're back here. Oh, we're going back to Tampa. Oh, we're back here. Like, they're not going to do this song and dance because they never wanted the stadium anyway. It just, with the Zalupski group, here it is. One shot. Let's figure it out. If not, we're gone. Like, done. Like, I'm not dealing with the games. We're gonna act. In transparency, or as much transparency as we can, and we're gonna, at least that's kind of what I've heard from most of the county and city officials. There are some that are not happy with them and say they're not transparent, but overall, the majority has said they have been. So take that for what it is. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Awesome, Evan. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. You can catch him at Twitter at Closky at WTSP. Trust me, follow him on Twitter if you haven't already. Follow him on Twitter. All right, well, guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind. Hit the subscribe notification bell when new episodes drop, which this one will be dropping on tomorrow morning. So make sure you do that. And go to our Instagram page at Rays Rewind Pod. For myself, Evan, and Drew, we'll see you guys later on Rays Rewind. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with El Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.